So today, we're shifting from the parami of renunciation that we've been spending this past month cultivating and understanding and relating with, moving into the parami that leads directly from renunciation. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. And this is the cultivation of wisdom, of panya. And the truth is that our Sangha is very much a practice Sangha. We're all already quite familiar with wisdom in our practices, in our direct experience of practice. So I'd like to introduce some thoughts about this topic, this parami. There's a story that's brought down in the Buddhist traditions that as the Buddha became more well-known, his fame began to spread, people began to perceive him as some sort of deity. And one person approaches him very awestruck and says to Buddha, are you a god? And Buddha says, no. So he says, well, are you some other sort of celestial being? And Buddha says, no. And then the man says, well, are you a plain man? And again, Buddha says, no. So the man says, well, then what are you? And Buddha's reply, which many of us may have heard already, is, I am awake. I am awake. This is Buddha's response. So this discussion of wisdom, I think, really begins right here. Everything is about becoming awake. And while this tradition of practice may have a lot of overlap with other wisdom and faith traditions in many different important ways, I think that something fairly unique and specific about our tradition of practice is some of the particulars of what we mean by this. What do we mean by becoming and being awake? Meditation teacher Sylvia Boorstein says over this story, really lovely story. She was being picked up by a driver early one morning after a retreat. So she's being picked up in this van early in the morning, and the van is full in the back with passengers that are sleepy and tired and sleeping. And she sits in the front next to the driver, and she recognizes the driver. The driver is Muhammad, the same driver that had picked her up from the airport, a week or two before to take her to the retreat center. And they had spent time in the car talking, and Muhammad had shared some details about his personal life with her when they were on the way to the retreat center. It's early in the morning and the car is quiet. Muhammad is driving. And about an hour into this 2-hour drive, Muhammad leans over to her and whispers, would it be okay? She's the only one that's awake in the car with him. And he says, would it be okay if I pull over from the side of the highway to a rest stop and pick myself up a cup of coffee? I'm pretty tired. And Sylvia said, well, of course it's okay. Do you want me to take over driving for now? And he said, no, it's okay. There'll be a rest stop in 5-10 minutes and I'll get a cup of coffee there. So Sylvia says, she was a little concerned about the driver's tiredness, and she decided she'll engage him in conversation. So she turns to him and she's thinking about what to talk about. They had already done their chit chat on the way to the retreat. And she says, Muhammad, I assume that you're a Muslim. Is that correct? And he says, yes, of course, I'm Muslim. So she asks him, well, do you pray? And he says, yes, of course I pray. She says, do you pray 5 times a day? And he said, yes, I do. Pray 5 times a day. Well, what do you say when you pray? And he said, well, I don't say it in English, so I don't really know how to translate what I say into English. And she said, well, that's okay. Share it with me in the way that you say it. And Muhammad proceeded in Arabic to share some of the prayers. And when he was done, Sylvia asked him, do you need a certain number of people to pray? And he said, no, you can pray with a large group of people. You can pray with a small group of people. You can pray all by yourself. And she asked him, well, how long does it take to pray? And he said, well, if you only have a small amount of time, you can pray in a short amount of time. If you have longer, you can pray longer. It really actually doesn't matter how long you pray. And he stopped and he thought about it. He said, there are people who sit and they pray all day, but it doesn't really matter. They're not really connected in their heart to their praying. So she said, well, how do you connect then in your heart? And he said, well, you can't just decide, it has to be connected in your heart when you know what the situation is. And he motions with his hands like he's pointing to the outside world. And he says to her, it's like we've all been thrown into this vast ocean and we're all drowning. Nobody knows how to swim. And it breaks your heart. And when you see that, you're connected. Then you're connected. And at that point, Sylvia says, Muhammad, I see a Wendy's over there on the side of the highway. Do you want to pull over now and get a cup of coffee? And Muhammad says, no, I'm awake. I'm awake. Not to sound too fatalistic about this, right? But we really are all thrown into this vast ocean together. And we are really all just trying to figure out how to swim. And while sometimes it might feel like we're drowning, other times, dukkha, often we translate that as suffering, one of the 3 marks of existence. It may not be full-on suffering, but always, one way or another, challenging, right? One way or another, always challenging. And then the other 2 marks of existence, anicca and anatta, the truth that everything is fundamentally impermanent, everything changes and ends. And the idea that the truth of non-self, there is no fundamental existing being independent of anything and everything else. So this is panya. This is the practice of wisdom. We cultivate this discernment, this clarity of mind into seeing truth as it is. In the Buddhist scriptures, they say wisdom and consciousness are conjoined. Wisdom and consciousness are connected in very important ways. So the development of wisdom for us is to become clear about the mind. And whenever we have consciousness, there can be wisdom. The job is to develop this wisdom and to really understand consciousness, to really understand this. In our practice of meditation, we can call it a practice of reflective awareness. Through deliberate practice, the default mode of our mind, right? Assumptions and beliefs and worries, which tend to lead the mind for no other reason other than they're the noisiest. It's just the stuff that, takes front and center automatically for us. We take the time, we take the deliberate intention, and we begin to notice and we begin to see and we begin to become aware. And then we strengthen and we deepen this awareness. And this is panya. This is the wisdom. So renunciation, which is the parami that we've been spending so much time on, is about letting go. It's about letting go. We've talked about many, many aspects of letting go, of surrender. But really, wisdom builds on this. Because in meditation practice, on the cushion, off the cushion, if we're tending to this, we're deliberately putting aside something that's coming in through the sense doors, something that's coming in through feeling of the body, seeing in the eyes, hearing in the ears, smelling with the nose, tasting, touching. And we are practicing restraint, right? We're not just allowing the automatic mode of being flooded by the sensations and by the experiences to then get received in the mind in the way that it does, and for the storytelling to happen, and for the way that we relate automatically and reflexively to just proceed. We bring this awareness in an intentional way in, and we practice restraint. Okay, we see this, but we're not just going along with what we see. We feel this, but we're not just going along with what we feel. And we're not literally renouncing everything that we experience. I mean, number one, that would be impossible. It's like that often misconception that people can have that meditation is some sort of practice of emptying or clearing the mind, as if that's really feasible. But we have a reflection of what we experience. And in that awareness, fundamentally, it's a practice of relationality. We're relating with the experience intentionally. I saw from this poet named Jeff Foster. He shares these words on meditation. And it really captures a little bit of how we approach this practice. He writes like this. He says, in meditation, your only job is to be curious about what arises. Don't try to get rid of any aspect of your experience. Your crazy thoughts, just watch them. Uncomfortable feelings, just breathe with them. Cry with them, laugh with them. The part of you that hates meditation, be interested in it too. The child in you who can't sit still, who wants to be somewhere else, who feels ashamed or guilty for thinking unspiritual thoughts or feeling negative feelings and impulses, who feels the burning desire to run away and do something else, welcome them with open arms. Breathe them into love and breathe love into them. In meditation, even the unwanted is wanted. Even your resistance is sacred. Even your resistance is sacred. There's a famous meditation teacher that was known to say when he had students on retreat with him, at some point he would sense that they're tired, they're feeling weary. You know, for those of us that have been on any sort of extended retreat, you know, we invariably hit that point. You know, it's not easy going to sit and practice and practice and practice. So he would turn to them and he would say, you know, I'm sure that many of you would like to go home. And then he would say, too late, too late. And I think this is true for all of us. You know, it's too late. We're not going home, not to that old home that we had before we began practice. This is new territory for us that we're just in, traveling together, swimming together, becoming familiar with it together. Yeah. Thankfully so. Okay. So let's see how we can take the unwanted with the wanted. treat the resistance and the reactions as sacred, as wisdom, here to teach us something more about ourselves, something more deep. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let's take a moment. Let's stretch out our body, see what's asking to be moved, to be shaken and stirred, to be felt, to be stretched. With a sense of ease, whatever naturally in the moment is calling forth for movement. And settling down into the chosen posture. Now, although we often call this sitting practice, it doesn't literally have to mean that we're sitting. We might be choosing to stand or lay or walk, or whatever would feel most supportive right here, right now. Spending some time just becoming more deeply aware. Maybe taking a few more intentional deep breaths. Allowing the body to settle. Bringing forth a sense of invite and a sense of curiosity. What are we willing to renounce just for these moments? What are we willing to let go of and to open up to? Creating a spacious sense of invite for anything that arises in awareness. In this practice of wise discernment, we can see, we can feel into what would be useful, what would be supportive. Perhaps getting a bit more familiar with an experience. Like zooming in, becoming a bit more precise or specific. What is that sensation? Where is that? How is it being experienced? We can do the same with thoughts and with emotional experiences as well. And then at times, wise discernment is in the practice of expansion, when we can recognize that something has gotten a bit too tight, a bit too contracted. Maybe we feel a bit stuck. We can zoom out, we can broaden the lens of awareness. Seeing how every moment that passes is some sort of a balance between these two. When we notice the head getting really involved, we can bring forth the qualities of the heart, compassion, to feel with ourselves into our experience. The sense of care and kindness, warmth. A phrase that I often use to ground me in this practice is noticing just this moment. Noticing just this moment. And checking in with the body. Does anything need an invitation for settling or softening or opening? Perhaps a sense of holding and support. Or if there's a bit of tightness or contraction happening around something. Sometimes I'll use the imagery of like opening my hands and allowing something that's being held a bit too tightly to slip between my fingers. It's okay. Inviting it to be let go. Sometimes the quality of awareness feels penetrative, like an arrow, pointing me. Then other times the awareness feels like the glow of sunshine, suffusing, spreading. Noticing what's here now. Settling back in the last couple of minutes of the sit. What's here now? Okay, give me a moment to allow people to unmute themselves. Okay, we should be good. I wish everybody a good day, a wonderful day. So good to see you all.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Bye.
Be well,
Thanks,
everyone.
David.
Thank you, David.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. Beautiful.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much, David. That was beautiful.
Good to see you again, David. Beautiful teaching.
Yeah, we've missed you.
Thank you, David.
Wow.
Peace. Bye. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. You too. You too,
Thank you for
Sonia.
sharing these moments.